So today we're going to be covering the CAS 360, just some best practice tips and tricks. I do have a special guest today, so I'm joined by Damien from our client success team. He's a bit of a CAS 360 whiz, so he'll be showing us some tips and tricks as well. So he'll be jumping in a little bit later. Just before we get underway, I'll just go through some housekeeping for the day. So the webinar is being recorded. Everyone that's registered to attend, whether you attend or not, will receive an email with a link to the recording as well as the slides. And if you have any questions throughout the webinar today, please use the Q&A option available to you. We do have some staff that are online available to answer your questions if you have any questions as we're going through things. Now, in terms of what we're covering today, we are going to go through the alerts, the reports, the templates, the annual review, multiple reviews, and also multiple changes. So Damien's going to be going through those last couple for us. That's what we're going to be covering today. What I will do is I will share my screen with you in terms of the CAS 360 software, and I will turn off my video because no one wants to see my squinting face while I'm trying to stare at my screen. So let me just turn off my video and I'm just going to swap which screen I'm sharing. So give me 1 second. Okay, here we go. Okay, sorry about that. My screens were jumping all over the place and I couldn't actually get to the screen I wanted. So just before we get into the actual software, my name's Alyssa, for those that haven't attended a webinar that I've run. I joined BGL last year from an accounting firm. I specialised in the SMSF division. However, I did use CAS here and there, but that's why we're also joined by Damien today, who's a bit of a CAS whiz. I'll let him do a bit of an intro when he jumps in and has a chat with you guys. We also have obviously our Q&A panelists that I mentioned before, that they're joining us from our client success team. So for the guys that have I suppose completed their migration journey to CAS 360, you've probably had some dealings with the client success team that would have helped you get on all your companies on board, but they'll be online today helping us answer some questions. So big thank you to them. Okay, so the first, I suppose, area of CAS 360 that we're going to have a look at today is our labels. So the labels section is this column right here. Now, from a, I suppose, practice perspective, the labels can be really, really handy for identifying different companies and where they might be. If you've got multiple managers completing company reviews or that look after different companies, these labels are a great way to sort of split them out amongst your firm. You've also got the ability to create whatever label you want. So it is a free text space, but it just makes it a lot easier to filter through and identify the companies that you want to be looking at rather than viewing every company altogether. So as an example, if I was to come here, you've obviously got the labels that have already been created. However, if I wanted to do this one here wants a paper copy, I can add that as a new label. So this particular client or company only wants to receive their company annual review by paper. So we can keep an eye on that too. Now, as I said before, if you were to click on the label, you can filter by the labels and come over here. We're going to go Melbourne office. And we can see here that our Melbourne office companies are showing up. Just going to zoom in a little bit for you guys. Is that easy to see, everyone? Perfect. Okay. Making it a little bit crazy on my screen, but as long as everyone can read the writing, it makes it easy for everyone to see. Not a problem. The next bit we're going to have a touch on is the alerts. And now before everyone gets super excited, because for the people that are familiar with CAS, you will see that there's a new alert. We will touch on that at the end. And I'll do a brief touch on it as we go through the different alerts and what they mean. But within CAS 360, you have these built-in alert sections. So you've got 4 different alerts now. So it used to be 3, we now have 4. The first one is the annual return due date. So this is going to bring up when your annual returns are due and ready for you to be processing your annual review. So the different, I suppose, categories of that will come up. If we hover over the question mark, from the annual review return option, you can see the different colors and what the different colors indicate. So an annual return's been received into the software and is ready to be, or is due to be processed, that the return's coming up. So it's due in 14 days. It also will notify you if the return month has passed or due date has passed. And then this is more specific for NZ, but if they've not been filed. The next alert we've got is our document deadline due date. So deadline. Now, again, this one's going to come up with 60, 30, 14, 7 days, and also today. So just giving you an indication and able to filter through from a workflow perspective, your priorities for what annual reviews you need to work through and when they need to be done. The third reminder or alert that's there that you would be familiar with currently is the company debt reminder. So this is going to come up if you, as an example, if the client has paid directly to ASIC and you've potentially paid for them as well, the credit's going to come up and show up as green. If the company has a debt that's coming up that they haven't paid and you need to remind them to make sure that they're doing their payments, that can be done from this alert. It can also be identified from this alert page. If they've got an outstanding debt, we all know that ASIC love to issue their late fees. So making sure that the clients are paying their fees on time. These alerts in particular are great. And the last one is obviously that it's outstanding debt with ASIC. So you want to be clearing them out as fast as soon as possible. Now, the new addition to the alerts tab is the director IDs. Now, this particular feature was rolled out into CAS on Monday, the 1st. So it's a new addition. The director ID functionality has been added into CAS. Damien is going to touch on it a little bit later, but it is CAS 360 is compatible with the director ID. So the guys have done a huge amount of work to make sure that the software was up to date and ready to go for this new edition. And it is all there and ready to go. So this alert will now show up on this dashboard page. And you can actually, from here, send out reminders and complete director ID details. Okay. The next bit that I'll touch on from this dashboard main select company selection screen page is the filter columns. Now, with the filter columns, they are on a user level basis. So you can change the way that your screen looks. So as an example, if I wanted to hide notes, as an example, and I wanted to add the company status, if I was to save that, what this will do is it's going to change the way that my screen displays. So you can see here the company status column is showing for me now. And again, this is on a user level. So different users obviously will look for different things. As someone who prepares the annual reviews, you might be really interested in obviously the due dates and the debt reminders, versus a manager who might be more interested in the company status or the type of company, as an example, if it's a SMSF trustee company, so on and so forth. Now you can just reset it and it will put it back to the default settings that have been set up for CAS 360. So we'll do that. So that's now been all been returned back to the original settings. The next bit I will show you is in the report section. So if you come across here to this notifications section, this is obviously where all your notifications come through. So when new annual reviews are received, if you've got like lodgements that have come through, everything's going to come through in this notification section. However, some people aren't aware that if you come across to this settings section, you can actually receive email reminders from CAS 360. So once again, this is a great feature if you have someone that comes in to do your corporate compliance work, and they might be coming in once or twice a week. They can actually set up so that they receive a report on the days that they come into the office, just to let them know, hey, these are the reports that I need to get, or the reviews that I need to work through for this week that are due in the next 14 days. So you have multiple options of what you would actually like to receive in this report. You just need to toggle them on or off depending on what you wanted to receive. We come down to the bottom, you can change the frequency of how often you receive them, daily, weekly, fortnightly, and also the days and the time that you would like to receive those emails. Now, this filter bit here is just whether or not you want to receive a report wants to cover all the companies in the firm, or if you want to have favorite label companies. So once you say those settings, those emails will come through to the person that's looking after your corporate compliance. Again, this is on a user level. It's not going to email every person that has access. Each user would need to set up these reports to be coming through to them. Okay, how are we going with the Q&A? Q&A looks clear, that's good. Okay, next thing we're going to look at, I'm just going to make the screen a little bit smaller. Is it still okay? Yep, perfect. Next thing I'm going to have a look at is our templates, a document template. So if we come down into our settings section, now this is something that generally you would set up at the beginning of your CAS 360 journey, or if you sort of, you've gotten your head around it all now and you want to sort of increase the, I suppose, personalization of what you're sending out to your clients, as we come into our document templates and email templates. So if I come into this document templates section here, you can see that we have a huge number of document templates available to be able to be edited to suit your firm. In this particular example, we're going to come over to the annual review cover letter. This one gets used quite frequently for demos, so we have quite a number of different templates. Now, the best way to customize your template is to download our master template. So once you download that, it will come through with a huge number of merge fields in the letter, and it's a pretty standard letter. You can, however, adjust the template to be how you'd like it to be. If you want to include your own header and footer, that's not an issue either. So if I was to come down to this bottom one here, this is one that I have uploaded and included the BGL logo as the header, so it's personalized report. Just gives the, I suppose, the cover letter that you're sending out to your clients a bit more of a personalized feel, and it's very easy to identify that it's come from your firm. The same can be done for all, obviously, the other documents. Now they each have a master, which is what you would download and where you would make your changes from. Once you've made your changes, it's just a matter of coming in and clicking on the upload button and re-uploading that document back into CAS 360. When Damien runs through the annual review process, he will show you how you can either how you can preview and make sure that letter's the correct one. The other thing you can do is when you come into the letter, as an example, this particular one here you can see has been set as the default. It's just a matter of coming into this options button and setting it as the default. So great if you have clients, as an example, if you had clients that predominantly want digital signing, you might have the letter done a certain way, so it's a digital signing pack, and you might have, a handful of clients that would prefer to receive paper copies. So you would set it as the default, the digital signing one, and if you needed to adjust it for the paper signing clients, you could adjust it as you're going through and preparing the documents. The other option you have as well of customized templates is the email templates. Again, you've got your annual review one, very, very similar. So if I was to click on to this one here, you can see the documents, these wiggly squiggles and everything else are the merge fields. These can all be changed. Now, I will highlight to you, if you are using the document templates or email templates, your Bible for making any of these changes is in this Australian help section. And what you want is the CAS 360 dictionary. Now, what this gives you here is every single mail merge code field that you need and it gives you the option of just basically copying and pasting them into your document as you're preparing them. So if I come into this one over here, it's going to go through and it basically gives me a list of every single document template that I just showed before in that list. And you click on the relevant one. So we had the annual review cover letter as an example. If I open that particular page, first of all, it's going to tell me how to get to it as well. It's also going to go through, and you can see here, every merge field or section that you could possibly want to include in that letter is available in this CAS 360 dictionary. As I said, it is your Bible for making any changes to any of the documents. There's no need to try and figure out what the merge field could be. The other thing that is important with this particular table is it will tell you and pinpoint where the information is coming from in CAS 360. So if you notice that particular document, when it's generated, the template's generating, the information that's pulling is not correct, just have a check here to see where the information is coming from in CAS 360. That might help you pinpoint maybe a possible change that needs to be made or just a field that needs to be updated so it's pulling the correct information. So yeah, once again, really, really, really vital part of the CAS process if you are looking at using those document templates and making changes. Okay. Jump back into my CAS page. The other thing with the document templates, as I said before, you can have multiple, and you can see here that we have multiple ones. The other option you have with these letters is if you wanted to have specific letters pre-signed by different managers so that they attach and when they're sent out, you can also do that. So you can have multiple letters attached, and then you just, again, just be selecting the correct letter when you're going through and processing. Okay, I'm going to get ready to hand over to Damien now, who's going to go through the annual reviews and how to process those. And I will chat to you guys soon. So I'll stop sharing my screen and I'll hand over to Damien.
Thanks, Alyssa. Thank you for that warm introduction. Yes, as Alyssa mentioned, so my name is Damien. So I am the Client Success Manager here at BGL. So we look after clients that are onboarding onto BGL's cloud-based products, including CAS 360, Simple Fund 360, and Simple Invest 360. So as Alyssa mentioned, I'm going to go through how to prepare annual reviews per company in bulk, and we'll also go through how to prepare some changes in CAS 360 as well. Cool. So I'm just going to stop my video and I will share my screen. Perfect. Cool. Hopefully everyone can see my CAS 360. Cool. Perfect. All right. So I am currently in the annual review screen at the moment. So obviously quite a few annual reviews that are currently in this screen. The company that I'm going to focus on at the moment is this bottom one here. So AH Super Proprietary Limited. Okay. Now I am currently, as I mentioned, in the review screen, which is this left-hand side option here. There are a number of details that are displayed on the screen. So for example, the ACN, the annual review date, the invoice amount, any sort of labels that are currently attached to those companies would all be in this screen here as well. Now, when an annual review is received in CAS 360, it is an automatic process where we do retrieve them from ASIC. The first thing that you would normally we recommend to clients is to review the data between CAS 360 against ASIC's database. So you'll notice here towards the right-hand side, we've got this passed icon and a failed icon as well. So if I click into the failed here, it is hyperlinked. So if I click into that, what we'll see here is a comparison between the CAS 360 database against the ASIC database here. Now, if there is a discrepancy between the two, a couple of potential reasons could be if a form was directly lodged with ASIC outside of CAS 360. So for example, on the ASIC portal, or if the client lodged a form to ASIC directly, or there might be a form that's been prepared in CAS 360, but not yet lodged to ASIC. Just going to zoom in on my screen. Oh, perfect. All right. So we saw before that there was a failed icon. So we can see here all these different tabs. We've got the general details, the addresses, the offices, members, and share structure. And you'll see this little pink or red 1 icon in the offices one. So if I click into that, we can see here that Alyssa is a director of the company at the moment. In CAS 360, her birthplace is listed as Melbourne in Victoria, but ASIC's database has Fitzroy, Victoria. So we can see that discrepancy. It is highlighted in red for any sort of CAS desktop users in the past that was in bold. So it is more visible now to clients. And the other benefit as well is that I can actually just change the details from within the same screen. I don't even have to leave this screen to update Alyssa's details. Where a discrepancy happens, the first thing that we would recommend is to check the details to see which database is correct. Does CAS have the correct details, or does ASIC have the correct details? If it is CAS 360 that has the correct details, then we'd recommend that you review your lodgements and make sure that the appropriate forms have been lodged to ASIC. In this case, ASIC has the correct information, being Fitzroy. So what I'm going to do is actually update CAS 360 to match ASIC. So as I mentioned before, I don't have to leave the screen here. Anytime where you see the names here being underlined, I can click on that very easily. And then I can search for Fitzroy. Oops, I'm going to select Fitzroy. And when I save that, we'll notice that it's no longer shown in red. It matches up with ASIC, and we can see in the top left-hand corner that the comparison review has now passed. Okay, so very easy to update the details in CAS 360. That doesn't prepare any forms or anything like that. It simply matches the data between CAS 360 against ASIC. So I'm going to jump back into the review screen. And we'll notice now that it has also a passed icon. Okay, previously it was failed. Now, for the purposes of this particular company, we're going to prepare one annual review for the one company. And we'll notice here we've got this prepared documents button on the right-hand side, which is where I can prepare them. Now, one thing to keep in mind as well is that we do recommend that you review the comparison reports, but it doesn't have to pass in order for you to proceed with preparing the documents. You'll notice that prepared documents button is there for all of these companies, passed or failed. So when I click on the prepared documents button here, we're first taken into what we call our document production screen here. Now, there is quite a bit of different options available on the screen here. So I'm going to touch on a few of them and just explain how they work. So in my current license at the moment, I do have digital signing enabled with DocuSign, which is why it's been automatically flagged for digital signing. First, going to go through some of the different templates and documents that are created here. Okay, so Alyssa mentioned earlier the annual review cover letter that she customized. So what I can do is, it's this particular cover letter that she did earlier. If I toggle this on here, it means that I'm selecting this document and I want to generate that particular one. So I can then click on the cover letter here. And this is the one that Alyssa has prepared earlier. So you'll notice that, as she mentioned, we've got the BGL logo here to be more official, obviously, so that clients understand that it is coming from BGL. It goes through all of the details within the template that Alyssa has also customized, which are all fully customizable within the document templates. Now, I don't have to fully prepare the documents either. I can just simply preview them as I am at the moment, and then I can simply just leave that particular tab and then go back to the document production screen. Now, when the annual review documents are being prepared, you've got a few different options on whether you would like to use the CAS 360 annual company statement or the official ASIC annual company statement. If I open up the annual company statement here, this one is generated by CAS 360 based on the details in CAS. So you'll notice that this doesn't have the official ASIC watermark. This is not generated by ASIC. It is by CAS 360. We can see all the sort of details and very similar to what we would normally see on the ASIC annual company statement. But one of the biggest differences here is that we do have this signatory field down the bottom. So this makes it a lot easier to digitally sign the documents within CAS 360 as well. It's for clients to sign and pull back into CAS. If digital signing is not enabled, this box will still also appear here, where clients can either digitally sign it on their end using their own software, or they can print it and send it back to you as well. Now I'm just going to skip the ASIC one for a moment, and I'm just going to open up the ASIC invoice here. This one is also generated by CAS 360. It has all of the relevant details about the annual review fee for the year that clients can also use. Now, if I open the ASIC annual statement, this is the one that clients would be mostly familiar with which is the official annual company statement that is issued by ASIC. So it has the annual company statement itself, and it would also have the invoice as part of one pack. So depending on your preference, you wouldn't normally have both the CAS and ASIC one because you don't want to spam your client too much with both company statements and make them pay for both. So what you might have is potentially this sort of a combination here, which has the cover letter, the annual company statement by CAS, the ASIC invoice by CAS, and the solvency resolution by CAS. Or I might choose to use the ASIC one only and toggle off the CAS generated documents here as well. With the solvency resolution, this is also populated by CAS 360 automatically, so you don't have to worry about manually entering the directors' names and everything. It is automatically populated by CAS 360. Now, if I want to switch any of the templates, like temporarily for this particular document set, I can click on this options button here on the right-hand side. This is the one that Alyssa has set earlier in the settings. But if I want to go back and I want to use the CAS 360 master template, I can click on that from here. And when I save it, if I generate the documents again for that one, you notice that this is the standard default CAS 360 template. So changing it from within this options area here only changes it for this particular document set. It doesn't change the default. So the next time I go to prepare the documents, it will go back to the default that Alyssa set earlier. Now, if you have a invoice that you have as part of your annual pack, so a clients that pay an annual fee, you can use this green upload button here to upload an additional invoice to be part of this pack. These documents, as I mentioned before, so you can, anything that is toggled in green is one that is being selected, but you can also reorder the documents as well. So if, let's say, for example, we don't want the client to miss the solvency resolution, what I can do is move the solvency resolution up so that it's the cover letter first, then the solvency resolution, and then the ASIC annual statement. Perfect. So what I can do from here is I've got the option to either download all the documents, or I can send it via email through to by CAS 360 to the client as well. So for the purposes of this example, I'm just going to download all. Cool. And that would then prepare all of the documents into one PDF pack here as well. Now back in the review screen here. So that was just for one company's annual review that I've prepared. Now what we can also do is prepare multiple annual reviews at the same time as well. Now I've got a number of companies still here remaining to go. So want to make this as quickly as, like if I wanted to send them out as quickly as possible, I can click on the bubbles for the ones that I would like to select, or I could use this option at the top here and select all as well. When I click on the prepare documents button that is available here, It will first give me a warning that one of the comparison reports failed, and if I want to continue with that, or if I would like to proceed with only the ones that have passed. So I'm just going to click on proceed, ignoring the failed. We're happy to proceed. And it will take us to a similar screen that we saw before with the document production screen. And it will ask us which documents that we would like to send to the client. Now, if I would like to turn off digital signing for this particular example, I could just select this to be none. So this will still be sent via email to the clients, but without digital signing enabled. So then when it will take us to our next screen here to confirm the email addresses for the contacts. If they do not currently already exist within CAS 360, you've got the ability to edit them or change or add them into the same screen here as well. If I want to remove any particular recipients, I can also do that from here so that it only goes to the relevant people. When I click on the proceed button here, it will then take us and ask us whether we would like to flag the annual reviews to be reviewed. This is, for example, by like a manager within a firm as well. I can then click on the proceed button. And it will then prepare the annual reviews and send them to the clients via email. Now, what I can also do is go into the notification bell that is here, and I can track the annual reviews and the progress of them. So if I click on this track button here, we can see that it's already been sent to the Big Bash company, and we're just waiting for it to be sent to the second company here as well. Now, one of the new features that we also released as part of our last update last week is that if you are currently using digital signing, when the documents have been digitally signed by the client, they do come back into CAS 360. The annual review alert can also be turned off automatically for that particular company once the documents have been signed. So if I click on the Prepare Documents button here, and in the electronic signing options area here, in the bottom right-hand corner, there is this new toggle here to mark the annual review as completed once all documents have been signed by the client. So that particular toggle, once I've toggled that on here and I save it, when the documents are being sent for digital signing, once they have been received back in CAS 360, it would automatically turn off the annual review tracking alert that we have over here. So I wouldn't have to worry about manually completing the annual review once the documents have been digitally signed by the client. Perfect. All right, so we'll move on to preparing some changes within CAS 360 as well. Now I'm still going to stick with the same company, which is AH Super. So I'm going to prepare a couple of changes. So the first one is I'm going to do a change of beneficial ownership with the shares. And then I'm also going to prepare an address change and combine all of this into the one form. Now, with the changes, some of them can be done within the company and any sort of bulk changes, in particular addresses or officer changes that affect multiple companies, they would be done from within the multiple screen. Even though they are completed in separate screens, they can be consolidated into the one form, which saves having to prepare multiple PDF Form 484s. So if I click into the company that we're going to do the changes for, I click on the shareholders tab over here. Now, at the moment, Alyssa currently has 2 shares allotted to herself. These are currently beneficially owned, which is indicated because we don't have a yellow or orange B icon, but you'll notice that that will change soon. So she's got the 2 shares that are currently beneficially held, but we're now going to change that to be held on behalf of a trust. So what I can do is click on Add Transaction here, and then click on the Change to Beneficial Ownership. Now, if you have previously used CAS Desktop, the usual process would be to create a duplicate person and then to complete it as a share transfer. The good news is with CAS 360 that you don't have to worry about doing that. There is this particular option here, which uses the existing contact to change the beneficial ownership. So when I click on this option here, we pop in the transaction date when this occurs. So I'm going to leave it as today's date. I'm going to select the shareholder, which is currently Alyssa as the sole shareholder in the company. We'll notice that it currently says the beneficial owner as held under the shareholder's name, which means that she's currently holding them beneficially. And we'll then see this particular field here that says new beneficial owner. So in this particular field, I'm going to pop in the trust name. I'm going to pop in the BGL unit trust for the full 2 shares. So what's happening here is that Alyssa's still holding the shares. She's still the shareholder, but the beneficial status is changing from being beneficially held to become non-beneficially held here. So I click on the save button here. And on the screen here, it looks almost identical to a share transfer. So we can see here that there's 2 shares being transferred out. And then there's two shares being transferred in. And you'll notice this yellow or orange B icon, which indicates that the shares are now being beneficially held. If I wanted to, I could proceed with preparing the forms down the bottom here. But as I mentioned before, we're going to also prepare an address change and consolidate that all into the one form. Now I'm going to leave this screen for the moment. We've noticed that this print toggle is here. When I go into the multiple screen, we're going to prepare an address change. So I'm going to click on the new change and contact address change. Going to select Alyssa. And we're going to change her address. Now in this particular screen here as well, so it will look up the addresses that are already in CAS 360. If it doesn't already exist, you can click on this option here to search for a new address. We can also use the Google search as well. So this makes it a lot easier to make sure that addresses are spelled correctly. There's no issues with the suburbs or postcodes, so that there's no discrepancies and to avoid multiple duplicate addresses from being created in your database. So I'm going to select one of the existing addresses for the moment. I'm going to pop in, leave it as today's date. Down the bottom here, we've got a couple of different options where I can apply this particular change to other companies that have the same business address. So that would be, for example, this address here at the top, the same address here. And then if I wanted to apply it to the other companies that currently have the same address as well, I could use that toggle here. If I want to apply it to other people, so other contacts that have the same current address as well, I can use this toggle here. Toggling it on. And then that will change it so that it changes it for Alyssa, but it also changes it for AH Super and AH Test Trust as well. So click on the proceed button here. We'll then notice that all of the changes are appearing in the screen here that we've prepared them for. So we've got a couple of different companies here. So AH Super was the one that we're working on. So this is the address change that we just prepared. So saying that Alyssa is changing address from the Brighton East address to Brighton, that's here. And in the bottom left-hand corner, we'll notice that this little toggle is here and it says one change to print. Now, this particular change is the one that we just prepared a couple of minutes ago, the beneficial owner change. So at the moment, we've got this address change here, and we've got the shareholder change within the company itself. So what I can do is click on this toggle here to apply this change. And when I click on the prepare forms button here, it will combine the address change that we just prepared, as well as the change of beneficial ownership that we had prepared earlier. So this is how you can prepare multiple changes within the one form. So you don't have to prepare them separately. Now, if I open up any of the documents, such as the form 484, we can see the change of address for Alyssa as a director within the company. And we can also see the change of beneficial ownership here as well for the 2 shares. So we can here see, for example, that the 2 shares have been decreased that were beneficially held and increasing it by 2 that are now non-beneficially held here as well. All of the other supporting documents, such as the directors' meeting minutes and registers, are all also prepared in here. You are more than welcome to toggle on or off each of those documents. And they are the ones that are produced on the screen here are only the ones that are relevant to the changes being prepared as well. And then I'm going to click on the download all button here to consolidate all of those changes into the one PDF set of documents as well. Now that form hasn't been lodged to ASIC yet, but if I go into the document screen here, it's this particular one at the top that we've just prepared it for, and it has the 2 changes, and I've got this green lodge button here on the right-hand side. Now you will also notice that there is the penalty option here, penalty amount, sorry, and the due date as well, to make sure that you are falling within the 28 days for a typical sort of Form 484 change being prepared. If you want to see any ones that are being upcoming for lodgement within the next 7 days or 14 days, you've got these filters here, as well as any sort of documents that need to be lodged in this particular filter here as well. Now, Alyssa touched on earlier as well with the new director ID changes as well. So this is something that has been added to CAS 360 as of last Thursday as well. So they do sit within the alerts area here. So you'll notice that there is that 4th icon here to go to and prepare to notify your clients to register for and apply for a director ID as well. So if I click into the go to director IDs, we've got the ability to send now, which will first, what we call an initial email. And that indicates to clients what the director ID requirements are and how to register for a director ID. Now, this is a process that is being rolled out in different stages at the moment as well. So BGL held a webinar last week in relation to these changes and how to prepare them in CAS 360. Our head of product, Warren, is also running another webinar on the 10th of November next week. We will send through the registration links on how to register for those webinars, which will cover this particular screen and the changes in further detail. But for the moment, I'm just going to touch on how these email works. So this is the initial email that would be sent to the clients to register for a director ID. But you do also have the option to send the reminders to clients as well. But we will ensure that link is included as part of the email that we send to you that has the recording and the slides as well. That covers pretty much everything that I wanted to touch on. I'll hand back to you and we might go through some Q&A.
Perfect. Now, I think there's a couple of questions that Damien and Martha was going to answer live. As Damien mentioned, we will include the link to register for the new features webinar, which is running on Wednesday next week, that we'll touch on. Thank you everyone for coming today. Obviously the director ID always raises a lot of questions, but as we mentioned, there is going to be a webinar on that, or will be covered in our new features webinar, which is running next week on Wednesday. So we will include the link to register for that webinar in the email that gets sent out today, along with the recording of today's session. You will also notice there's a splash screen when you log into CAS 360 that will ask if you want to register, so you can register via either way. Just a reminder not to forget about the resources, so the live chat, the learning channel, the YouTube channel. So all our webinars are listed on our YouTube channel if you wanted to catch them or rewatch anything, and also the community page that we answered before. Other than that though, thank you everyone for attending. And if you have any further questions, feel free to reach out to your account manager, use those support features, and good luck with your CAS 360 journey. Thanks for coming, guys.